Hello friends and welcome back. So today we're going to be covering another true crime case. This one is solved, and actually I prefer the solved ones, so thank you so much to everyone who has been sending me messages and asking me to cover specific cases. I love to hear what you guys want to hear about, cases that you haven't seen covered anywhere else. And so thank you very much for sending me messages. This case was actually requested by one of you guys, and the girl who requested this case to be covered is actually related to the person that we are going to be talking about today. So as always, I implore you guys to just be incredibly respectful. I know that you guys are, but just to add on to that, if you guys could just be extra nice, because we know that she will be watching this video and we want to make sure that we are a community that supports and uplifts each other. And even though I'm putting on makeup as I talk about this, it's still someone's life that has been taken, and it's still someone who has gone through an ordeal, and it's still family members who are grieving, and it's still, someone's family, someone's friend who died essentially. And we have to remember that even though this is a YouTube video and it's made basically for entertainment purposes, it's not a subject that is meant to be taken lightly whatsoever. So I ask you guys to be very respectful in the comments, and remember, you can message me anytime over on Instagram, or even leave your suggestions in the comments if you know of any cases covered as much by the media. I would absolutely love to cover these cases here, so let me know. Okay, let's just hop right into this one. So this case actually takes place in Australia, and it wasn't very easy to find out a whole lot of information about this one. I googled and I found only a couple of articles because it was not a case that went on for, years and years, like how we're used to reading about or watching videos about. This was kind of like an open and shut case because it kind of got solved quickly, which is amazing. Props to the investigators on this one, because it seemed like they did a really good job. So Nona Belomesoff was an 18-year-old girl from Australia. She was described as being super bubbly and fun and just funny and a great person to be around, a good girl. And her brother even described her as being a homebody. She never really was one to go out and party. She preferred staying at home, which I was instantly drawn to because I feel that. I'm such a homebody as well. And she absolutely loved animals. Ever since she was a little girl, her family and friends have said that she wanted to make a career out of rescuing animals. And I mean, over in Australia, I'm pretty sure that it's kind of a big deal because, all of the more exotic animals to take care of and prevent from going into extinction are basically either there or in Africa. So it was her calling ever since she was really little. She was even taking a class called Work in the Animal Care Industry at the Sydney Institute, TAFENSW, or Technical and Further Education in South Wales. Side note, I personally automatically love people who love animals. You can tell that someone has a good heart when they are just passionate about animals or children or any creature who doesn't have a voice or can't really take care of themselves, and you're just drawn to helping, something so innocent, that people have a good heart when they're either really, really good with kids or really, really good with animals. So on February 20th, 2010, Nona actually accepted a friend request. It's something that we do on a regular basis. You see a request, maybe you have a friend in common, and you just click accept because you don't want to seem rude to be ignoring someone's request, especially if you have some friends in common. So anyway, she accepted this friend request, and it was from this guy called Christopher James Denevig. So they started chatting then, and it was just, idle chit-chat, nothing serious, just friendly. As far as Nona knew, they would never meet in real life, so she had nothing to be suspicious about. Just before April 15th, 2010, Nona and this Chris guy were talking about life choices and work stuff, and she opened up to him about wanting to work with animals, and that she was just super passionate about animals, and that's what they were talking about, and there was nothing strange about it. Excuse me while I stamp on this concealer. It's hard. So later on, still in April, Nona received a second friend request. This was shortly after her and Chris had established this acquaintanceship on Facebook. This time it was a friend request from someone called Jason Green, who said that he worked for an organization called WIRES. I had to Google that, and it's basically the Wildlife Information Rescue and Education Service, which is an Australian organization involved in the field of animal rescue. Only thing was that Jason Green didn't actually exist. Christopher Denevig actually created this fictional Jason Green in late April 2010 after learning about Nona's interest in animal welfare, which honestly is just so shady to me. That's already super suspicious in and of itself. You learn that someone likes animals, so you make up a fake guy that works with an organization dedicated to rescuing animals. The same exact thing that Nona was actually interested in. And I feel like most people would have actually become kind of suspicious if, you get a friend request by some guy right after revealing to another guy that you're interested in, a specific job, and then randomly you receive this friend request from someone who works for, that specific job. But like I said, Nona was just super trusting and just an all-around good person, so of course she went ahead and just accepted this friend request. On April 27th, 2010, Jason Green, aka Chris, reached out to Nona via Facebook and offered her a job. And this was so exciting for Nona. This was all that she ever wanted. I told you guys she was just obsessed with animals, and that's what she wanted to do with her life, and so she was pretty excited to have been offered this amazing job with this incredible company that's very well known. So of course she said yes, absolutely. So the two of them arranged to meet at the Lumia train station I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. They arranged to meet for the first of several training sessions that would get her acquainted with things that she would have to later do or tasks that she would have to perform at her new job. So Jason and Nona planned to have several different meetings throughout the following weeks. The first of them being on May 5th, and then a couple of meetings each day after that until Monday, May 10th. And each day they would go into the brush and do different initiatives made up by Chris that he said, were important for the job.
It's almost 6.
Okay.
But just a minute, okay? The time ago.
Alright, you guys, zoomed you in so you guys could see a little bit better. We were kind of too far away. So there were definitely some warning signs early on, but like I said, Nona was just such the most trusting girl in the entire world. Because, for example, after one excursion on May 10th, she actually came home and told her parents that Jason Green had physically assaulted her as an act of self-defense demonstration. Like, he pushed her to the ground and put his entire body weight on top of her until she could barely breathe. Then he made her get up and told her that he did that as a part of the self-defense training that was necessary for the job. She explained to her parents that he did that in case she ever got kidnapped or raped on the job. But I don't understand still how that's even possible, because if you're working with such an important company, surely they'd have safety measures to not have you get kidnapped. After this, he had apparently blindfolded her and then tied her hands up and then did it again. Like, he pushed her to the ground and asked her, what would you do? What would you do? Like, repeatedly, until she started crying because she had no idea how to get this guy off of her. By the way, doing this is absolutely not protocol whatsoever, like pushing people to the ground and forcing them to just see how they'd get you off of them is not teaching someone how to self-defense. It's completely absurd to me. While I was reading that, I was like, what the hell was going through this guy's brain? But anyway, when she started to cry, he got off of her, and then he even offered to call an ambulance for her if she was not feeling up for the self-defense class, but she refused it, obviously, because who would offer to call authorities or an ambulance if they were like a psychomaniac? So surely she thought, okay, this guy's legitimately trying to make me learn how to defend myself in case I get kidnapped on an excursion to save wild animals. Like, I don't know what was going on through her head, but I can kind of understand why she would think nothing of it, because if someone is physically trying to assault you but then offers to call, authorities, you'd be like, oh, okay, so then that was legitimate, it wasn't like he was actually trying to strangle me, So then Jason Green closed off that May 10th training day session by arranging to meet Nona at the Smith Creek Preserve in the greater Lumia area, and he said that they would go on an overnight training trip, which was absolutely essential to her training program before he could ultimately hire her for the job. But like I said, Nona was a homebody and she never went anywhere. She would never have done this in a million years, but she was adamant about this being, her dream job. So when her parents were like, I don't know about this, she just asked her father again and again and again if, that she needed to do this. Like, this was her career that they were talking about, and this was super important to her. So they allowed her to go. I mean, she was 18, so she could do whatever she wanted legally, but you know, being as her family was super close, she basically told them this was it. It was now or never. This was her chance to get the job that she had always wanted all her life, you know? So she didn't want to lose this opportunity for her dream job. So at 9 a.m. on May 12th, Nona left to go on this overnight camping trip experience, training session, what have you, and that was the last time her parents would ever see her alive, basically. So the next day, when Nona failed to meet her parents at the Lumia train station like they had planned, her parents called the police, obviously. And then her father contacted Wires to inquire about the training program and, like, if there had been any glitches in the program, like what was up, what was happening, you know, where were... But the group responded to him saying that they did not facilitate any overnight training programs whatsoever. Then her father asked them about Jason Green, and the Wires employee that was on the phone with him had basically told him they had never heard of a Jason Green before, and no such person worked for Wires. So obviously then her parents went to the police about this and reported their daughter as missing. So the police were able to find out that Nona's bank account had been accessed basically by using CCTV footage. And they saw that Chris Denevig was the individual who accessed her bank account. He withdrew the maximum available amount, which was $170, leaving only about $8 or so. Afterwards, when Chris was arrested after all of this went down, he told the police that he acquired Nona's PIN by tricking her, basically. He said that he could never remember his, and I told you guys that this girl was just so kind, and she did not suspect him whatsoever because she literally told him her PIN. She said that hers was easy to remember because it was the same as her birthday. And obviously, being that he had her on Facebook, he knew her birthday. This girl was just way too trusting. So at 12:30 a.m. on May 14th, Chris Denevig was awoken by a team of police officers at his door, obviously, because of the CCTV footage making him the only suspect in the case. And later, also, the fingerprints found at the scene made him, like, number one and only suspect in the entire thing. He told the police that he knew Nona, and that the two had seen each other on Tuesday, and that they only last spoke to each other on Wednesday, which was the same day as her death. And this guy had some nerve because he basically told police that he had blacked out and he could offer no explanation as to why Nona ended up drowning in the creek that they later found her in, although he did admit to stealing from her bank account. At 8:10 a.m. on Friday, May 14th, Christopher Denevig was arrested. He led investigators down this isolated track in the bush of the Smith Creek Preserve and to the scene of the crime where Nona's body still was. He continued to tell police that he had no idea how Nona died because he had blacked out and he just had no idea. He said that he spent between 30 to 120 seconds just staring down at Nona's lifeless body before he fled the scene of the crime. He then told police that he probably killed her, but he said, of course, he could not provide any details because he had blacked out at the time of the incident. Nona's body was found face down in a small creek at the Smith Creek Preserve at 9:40 p.m. on Friday, May 14th. Police found her fully clothed and wearing like a fabric sleeping mask over her eyes, which prosecutor Christopher Maxwell argued served as chief and crucial evidence that the murder had been calculated and prepared, and this was not just like a fleeting moment of passion, second-degree murder. This was first-degree, like he had planned this out and it was something that he was planning to do. While he was in custody, Christopher actually spoke to a team of undercover police officers who were posing as prisoners. He admitted to them that he had pushed Nona before knocking her down into a bed of rocks, which rendered her unconscious. And then he took her and held her underwater until she stopped moving. So this guy was definitely not blacked out during all of this, obviously. So prosecutors took note of this particular piece of information, as well as 2 previous convictions that Christopher actually had, including this one time he pulled a knife on a woman just walking casually along in the bushland, and another time back in November 15th of 2008 where Chris had actually lured a 16-year-old girl into the Ingleburn brush to retrieve a bag he claimed to have lost, which made me think automatically back to the Moores murders, with Myra Hindley asking her victims, the children, to come back with her to help find, a bag or a necklace or something that she had lost back in the Moores. Like, that just reminded me so much of that while I was reading it. So this guy was extremely just conniving, I feel like. Anyway, Chris had pulled a knife on this girl, but ultimately let her go because of oncoming passers-by, coming along, and thankfully the girl was able to flee from that situation, thank God. And all of these previous convictions, all of it just served to prove that this had been planned out. He had basically searched out a victim. He found Nona. He made this fake profile. He did all of it in order to get another victim, in order to murder somebody. I am 100% convinced that he did all of this because he wanted to murder somebody. There's absolutely no other explanation for it. I personally feel like this is what he was intending to do right from the start. But then again, I'm not a criminal expert, police officer, or psychologist, so what do I know? But the thing that really, really, really pisses me off is that all of this entire ordeal, him creating this fake Facebook profile and contacting Nona, all of it took place just 8 days after his release on parole for the 16-year-old that I mentioned earlier. Apparently he got off because of psychiatrists noting his developmental history, intellectual disability problems that he had, anger management, etc., etc. It also said he had been diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 7. As if that has anything at all to do with tendencies to murder. They also noted a history of depression. Again, doesn't mean depressed people go out there and start killing. Alright, I'm gonna go pop on some lashes and I'll be right back. So a forensic psychologist also administered an intelligence test to Chris shortly after his 2009 conviction, which placed him in the category of mild intellectual disability at a level lower than 99% of the population. All of this to say that even though I think help is needed for those who have mental disabilities or are dealing with mental health issues, I still believe that folks with mental health issues should still be held accountable for the things that they do, because instead of giving Chris the help that he needed, and giving him just a pat on the back and, sending him on his way back in 2009, he really should have received more help. Because if you think that someone is experiencing, mental health issues or has some kind of a disability, I assume as law enforcement or just people who take care of things like this, that you would know better than to just let someone loose that has already had 2 previous convictions, on their name. Instead of diagnosing them and helping them, you just let them go free like that. I think that if they had kept him to analyze his behaviors and to get him the help that he needed, obviously Nona would still be alive today. Because if you think about it, just because someone has mental health issues, you can't justify their actions. I mean, there's always still that possibility that they're doing things that will obviously harm someone else. So even just to say, oh, they have mental health issues, they didn't really mean to do this, let's just let them go. That's not good, obviously. Do you know what I mean? You can't do that. If someone has a mild form of retardation, and this is quoting the forensic psychologist that diagnosed him, wouldn't you still make sure that he wouldn't do anything that would escalate? He had a teenage girl at knife point. Do you not think that he would do that again, even though he has a mental health issue or mental disabilities? It's still very possible he could hurt someone. Anyway, that was the story of Nona Belomesoff, and if I could just quickly close off and end this story with just an overall warning to everyone. Once again, do not accept friend requests from people you don't know. I know that we live in a very social media driven time, social network driven time with Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter, all of that. But we need to be mindful of who we let into our inner circles. Even though I personally think Facebook is dead, there are tons of people who still use it, and mostly Facebook is supposed to be for people that you know. So accepting friend requests from folks that you have never seen in your life, just don't do it. Even if they message you privately, even if you have a friend or two in common, because they could have very well done the same thing to the friend to get closer to you. Sometimes it's good to overthink, and sometimes it's good to just be very wary of people, and sometimes thinking the worst can save you from the worst. And also, a message to parents. Monitor your children's personal messages. I mean, obviously respect their privacy and ask to read beforehand, but of course, you have to be the parent and you have to put your foot down whenever you see that something is wrong or there is that gut feeling once again. Make sure that you know who your children are talking to so that you have a clear understanding of who it is that they're communicating with. And just in case something does end up happening, you know who to name. So if you guys take anything at all from this story, is the internet is a great place, and obviously you can find so many job opportunities and work and branch out and meet friends and form real and true connections. Like, I'm the first one to say that I've made so many friends over the internet who are even closer to me than actual people in my real life. But be mindful of who you let into your life, especially if you've only been talking to them for a couple of weeks. Do not go out of your way to meet with them in person unless you have someone with you. Don't do anything on your own. Be mindful, be wary, and just be careful. Just be careful. Just be careful. If you can take anything from this, is just please be careful. Please. Alright, you guys, to quote Bailey Sarian, be careful out there, make good choices, and I'll see you guys later.